to the Pirates Podcast. That's me, Pirate. It's Thursday. I hope you guys are having a great week. I am here. I think I'm a minute late. If you're new to the podcast, this is a new thing I started 2 weeks ago, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock, right here, Pirates Podcast, where I talk about any and everything. And today, we're talking about girls in the Boy Scouts, or Scouts as they've been rebranded. Hello, Transient Stacker. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. So, yes, just like the title suggests, we are talking about girls in the now Scouts, which used to be the Boy Scouts. OTG says he was an Eagle Scout. I was a Life Scout. The only thing I didn't get done was my Eagle project. I feel like I have a little bit of a say-so here because I grew up in scouting. I loved scouting. Come back. Now, am I back now? Nope. God, everybody calls right when I'm trying to film this thing. I don't think I can do live on airplane mode. I'm back now. Everybody hears me. Thumbs up. Okay. All right. So look, here's the deal. I was in Scouts. I love Scouts. I wouldn't have even thought anything about this except my daughter had come home and was like, hey, they came in our classroom and are talking about doing Scouts, and I think I want to do it. And I went, what? I'm like, Girl Scouts? And they're like, no, just Scouts. Whatever. And I'm thinking it's Girl Scouts. So I go to a meeting, and there's a bunch of people there, mostly girls, and it was not for the Girl Scouts. It was for the new Scouts, originally the Boy Scouts. And here's the thing. I grew up with Scouts. I love the Scouts. I feel like the people that were my Scout masters, I feel like I looked up to those guys. And I feel like a lot of what we did and learned in Scouts was what brought me up to think of being a good man. Like, it wasn't just about camping and fishing and being a moral individual. Scouts was like, this is what men do. This is what you need to be responsible for. This is how you become a man. And it was just one of those things where it was kind of, it was all us dudes together doing dude stuff, being dudes. And I came up through Cub Scouts into the Boy Scouts. So, I'd been scouting since I was 7 or 8 years old. And I loved it. And here's the thing. When you're little, I guess there's less of a variation, your boys, your girls. I could see Cub Scouts, that 8 to 11 age, that you could get away with mixing boys and girls for that. Although I still feel like Cub Scouts was us, me and the boys, and we were learning boy stuff. And there was Girl Scouts for girls, and they had brownies, and they could learn girl stuff, right? And do all that stuff. It's one of those things that I just feel like they were so good for what they were. They were a big part of my life. Once you get into the older kids, when you're talking about mixing 11 to 18-year-old boys and girls, I think there's a clear line there that it is a detriment to both. You're now, there's this old saying, and it may be really old school of me, and it may not even have anything to do with this, but the whole saying, boys will be boys. When I was together with all my buddies in Scouts, boys were certainly boys. Like, we did boy stuff. We weren't worrying about girls. We weren't worrying about that girl's cute or that girl's cute. We were boys being boys, and that was the beauty of the Boy Scouts. They teach us stuff. They taught us how to become young men. They taught us good morals. They taught us survival aspects. They gave us a good outline, and it was a fantastic deal. We had campouts. Camping out was probably my favorite part. If you think for a second, I would put my 10-year-old, 11-year-old daughter in the hands of anybody for overnight campouts with boys and girls, you're crazy. That's never happening. I just think it's a load of crap. Like, I get the idea. Look, girls have Girl Scouts, boys had Boy Scouts. Why did we need to mix the two? How come? How did that better anything? To me, it was great that they were exclusive here and great that we were exclusive here. I think that was the best case scenario for both. Girls didn't have to worry about boys. Boys didn't have to worry about girls. We know at that age there's hormones and all that going anyway. Why would we want to mix the two? And I know why. I know the reason why. The reason why became from the big push of your transgender kids, right? Little Johnny thinks he's a girl. He wants to be in the Girl Scouts. Little Jessie wants to be a boy. She can do all the things a boy can do. Like, I just feel like it's such a load of crap. So, I feel like it's a total detriment. I feel like they have destroyed it. Now, they've come out, and I wanted to look up some numbers because I was just like, apparently the switch happened by 2019. And they say that the Scouts numbers have only declined due to the pandemic. That's their claim, which makes no sense at all, right? Pandemic, you're Scouts, you could certainly meet outdoors. You could certainly still do outdoors things. Let me tell you the numbers. Boy Scouts had memberships in 2019 of 1.97 million. 2 million boys. As of 2021, that has dropped to 762,000. They lost 2/3. They lost 2/3 of their membership, as they should have, because now we're not dealing with Boy Scouts anymore. We're dealing with woke BS. That's what we're dealing with. So we go to this meeting. There's a guy that's the scoutmaster. There's a woman that's the assistant scoutmaster. And they're trying to get all of our kids to sign up for Scouts. Now, first off, it was outrageously expensive. It was something like $500 for the year. Plus, they were expected to participate in X amount of fundraisers per year. So they were expected to bring in X amount of money to the troop. And even at that, I look at that and I go, what a load of crap. Since when was the Scouts meant to be a marketing ploy? Now, the Girl Scouts, I get it. All they do is sell Girl Scout cookies, or so it seems. The brownies as well. But when I was in Scouts, I was fishing. I was outdoors. I was learning knots, how to start fires, how to eat, how to make foil dinners, how to do these different survival things. Like, for me, it was such a great memory. And my favorite part of every summer was Scout camp. When I was in Cub Scouts, there was day camp for a week, I think. You'd go up, we'd canoe, we learned to row. And it's funny because you think of those as skills that everybody that would know, right? Everybody would know how to row a boat. Man, I watch these shows where they do a rowing challenge. Nobody knows how to row a boat. And you're just like, when would that ever come in handy? Well, I've rowed a boat a few occasions in my adult life. So it did come in handy. But then once I got to Boy Scouts, scout camp, we would go for a week out into the woods. And we were in Hawaii, so it was even more fantastic. A week away from the parents, you and the guys. Could you imagine this? A bunch of kids, 11, 12 to 18. They go away from their parents for a week. You're out in the woods. You meet up with every other scout camp on the island, right? So there's literally got to be, 400 kids, 500 kids at this scout camp for a week. Could you imagine if there was boys and girls? I mean, we did enough sneaking out and going and we had little wars. We did these ginger fights where we cut down the ginger tree and throw them at each other. But could you imagine the trouble that would come from all those kids, boys and girls, being integrated alone for a week in the woods with their one or two scoutmasters there? Can't imagine it. Again, I would never put my daughter in that situation. She will never join the Scouts, ever. And I think it's a real disservice because, if you're religious and you go to church, and I grew up Mormon, they had fantastic youth programs, young men's, young women's. We'd meet once a week. We'd do different activities. And that kind of doesn't take the place of Scouts, but at least you'd have that interaction, right? But for those people that weren't religious, that didn't go to church, the Boy Scouts was a great substitution for that. Your children could interact on a different level. They could be held accountable. You could be respectful, taught respect, earn respect. You learned how to get responsibilities. You become an assistant patrol leader, then a patrol leader. You had ranks that you would achieve, and your hard work was worth something. It really was a fantastic system. And again, I had a fantastic experience with it, but this was back in the 80s and 90s, right? This was before it all became woke and BS and all the crap. My sash was full too, man. I wanted every merit badge I could possibly get. So I loved the Boy Scouts. And again, seeing what it's become now, which is basically a shell of itself. It's now just a moneymaker, and you're throwing in boys and girls. And if you think it's suspect, you think I'm the only one that's concerned about mixing of teenage girls with teenage boys, it shows in here. Yes, big, yes. So Capital Currency just brought up lots of lawsuits. You were lucky if you didn't get touched as a young boy. I've heard stories, and anywhere that you put children in any situation, predators will come out of the woodwork. And it may be that ours was a church scout troop. Not all of them, but the main one I was in. And so the leadership weren't actually volunteers. They were actually elected as a calling to be the scoutmaster. And so I'm sure, any kind of funny money there, anybody was looking a little too eager to be a scoutmaster probably was overlooked. But besides all of that, if you go online now, man, not only are they saying their daughters being treated differently, harassed, this, that, the other, they're being flirted with by the scoutmasters. I mean, there's so many sticky situations here. Pardon the pun. I mean, there's There's so many bad opportunities. I just don't know how anybody can be like, oh, hey, you know, bring your daughter. We'll get her in here with all the boys. And I think it's a real disservice because the boys learned so much about becoming a responsible young man, being a good human being. Like, that was the focus. Can they still teach that? They can. But have you literally put candy in the fat cabin? Like, you're literally making it so much harder with so many more distractions. And I think that's for both. I think the Girl Scouts, they obviously had probably a similar message for the girls. They did similar things. Now, I don't have any personal experience with the Girl Scouts. If I'm wrong, tell me. Tell me your experience. What did they learn? If you currently have a child in Scouts, tell me about it. I'm genuinely curious because to me, I think they got it all wrong. And I think it's a huge disservice to children, families, boys, girls, to everybody everywhere. I think it's a huge letdown. So really disappointing. I don't know. Again, I can only imagine it's part of the whole woke thing that converted this over. But again, the numbers don't lie. 2019, when they made the conversion, there was approximately 1.97 million Boy Scouts. There's currently 762,000 as of 2021. I bet you that number is much lower now in 2025. And in fact, I'd also be willing to bet that Scouts goes away completely in another couple years. I don't even know if it has 2 or 3 years left in it. I think it's, at this point, it is a shell of what it used to be and what it was meant to be. And again, it's a bummer because I had fantastic scouting memories. Myself, my friends, we lived for that stuff. And we had a great, my scoutmasters, my main two as I got older, was Forsyth and Esposito. They were 2 Vietnam veterans. These dudes were tough. I mean, we were stoked. And literally, Forsyth brought this trunk full of camouflage, military surplus gear, boots, pants, jackets, sleeping bags, the tents that buttoned up into 2. And he gave it all out. He's like, split it all up. And we'd go camping in our camouflage and doing all that. And it was amazing. It was such a cool experience. Think Lord of the Flies, but a little more organized. I mean, it was one of those things where, and we loved it. We loved going out. Now, we typically took our fishing poles. We always camped once a month. We'd go out, usually to the beach. We'd take our poles. We'd fish. We'd eat fish all night on the fire, and we would just fillet. We'd gut and fillet everything we caught, put it into gallon Ziploc baggies, and throw it in the cooler. And the next day when we went home, we'd drop it by all the people's house that were in the church. And we'd give them, here's a bag of fillets. Here's a bag of fish. That was a really cool experience. And we learned a lot from that, right? Giving and doing for others. But I mean, they would legit pick us up. They'd tell our parents, hey, we're coming by after school Friday. We're doing a survival camp. They wouldn't even tell us. They'd just show up, honk in the van. We'd go outside and they'd be like, grab your pocket knife and let's go. You don't bring anything. Don't pack, no food. And we go out and we do a survival overnighter. And it was like the coolest thing. So I have great memories of that. And learning from these amazing veterans, and they were teaching us how to disable a man permanently. I mean, they were teaching us things that they learned in the military and throughout life that may be a skill that's necessary one day. Who knows? But as a teenager, we soaked it up like sponges. We were there to learn. And it was an amazing experience. Also got the merit badges. You know, the merit badges were cool because you learn enough about all these different things. Well, that helps guide you into what you want to become one day. You know, oh, that was really fun doing this. I want to look into that more. Or that could be a great hobby. I want to look into that more. So again, I feel badly, and I only bring this up because we had a meeting at the school about scouts. My daughter was pumped. They were selling the kids on it in class. They went and talked, and they were like, hey, boys and girls, come join the scouts. We do all this fun stuff. Again, I just would never put my daughter in that situation. I wouldn't put my son in that situation. You know, it's one of those things. I think that there's a time and a place, but throwing teenage kids together in one group and expecting that to be functional, I just feel like that is a tough ask. So I'm not surprised they're declining. I think they'll be out of business in a few years. RIP to the Boy Scouts, now known as the Scouts. Tell me your experience. Am I way off? I'd love to hear your scouting stories. Again, mine was fantastic. Flag ceremonies, learning different skills. I mean, I used to just in my downtime, I would sit and read my Boy Scout handbook. It had all kinds of great tips in there, survival tips, making snares, this, that, the other. It was a great resource. And, you know, it's just sad that it's all for nothing now because we got to appease everybody, right? We got to get woke. We got to share. Everybody's got to be, everything's got to be good for everybody now. I don't buy it. Tell me your thoughts. That's it for today. I've taken up my time. This is Pirates Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday. We'll be back tomorrow. Yes, I did get some blood drawn today. We'll get some test results. And then I got one to talk about coming up about the scam of our healthcare system. It's pretty miserable. But, yes, it's really cool seeing a lot of you are in Scouts. I'm assuming most of you are my age or even perhaps older. And again, I had a fantastic experience with scouting in the 80s and 90s. Really wonderful. It's too bad that that is no longer what it used to be. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hope this starts your day off right. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. See you next time. Pirate out. Arrgh.